Good afternoon and welcome to the 28th meeting of the Park Cities Rotary Club. Before we get our program started, if we all could just stand up and just mingle with ourselves and get to know your neighbors. Okay, everyone, let's take a seat and we'll get the program going. So I'll take a seat. And I'd have Mary Bishop come up and do our pledge and national anthem and invocation.
Hello, welcome. Hello, may I have your attention? It's always fun to visit with friends. Catching up is great. Do we have any concerns that I could lift up in our invocation prayer? Okay, any concerns? Okay. Well, let's just go to the Lord in prayer. Let's take a deep breath. Relax into this time and space. Lord, as we take a moment to reflect, to thank you, to give you praise and glory for all that you've done for us. Lord, we thank you for the safety of living in this country, for the many different people that serve us, those particularly here at this MAGGIANO'S that serve us each week. We lift them up to you and thank you for all those that are here today. Father, we thank you for our country, for the celebration of being able to serve. We lift up our men and women in the services, wherever they might be in harm's way. We ask a special protection over them, that your angel armies will be all around them as they serve us. We lift up those that serve us in our schools, our hospitals, our firemen, our policemen. Father, we are an organization of service. So we give you the glory for all that you've done for us. Be with us and guide us. In his name, amen. Let's have I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now, if I could have, let's see here, Walt. Hey, Walt, can I employ you here to walk around with the Happy Bucks? And because I know Richard is downstairs, hopefully our program will be arriving here soon. Let me give you a microphone real quick.
Here, Walt.
Walt, your microphone. Happy Bucks. We
You sure you trust me with this?
Happy as a Happy Buck. I know where this is going.
Happy as Happy Bucks.
So I guess two things. So one's a public service announcement. If you like holiday stuff, you know who you are in this room. The Holiday Warehouse is closing. Today might be their last day. In Plano, amazing deals, beautiful stuff, and go Chiefs.
Go Chiefs. Knew that was coming.
All right.
Over here.
Whoa.
Thank you, sir. This is a thank you to all of you. I did not expect the congratulatory conversations I had after giving my presentation last week, and even the people who've walked up to me today to say thank you. I thank you. Mm-hmm. Thank you for listening. Thank you for letting me in the club.
Thank you, Kathy.
Love Rotary.
There you go. More Happy Bucks? I know Mark over here has a Happy Buck, don't you? Congratulations. Yeah. Show me the money. Any more Happy Bucks? How about guests? Do we have guests today? There you go.
Hi, my guest today is my husband, Nick Harper, who is also a Rotarian. He's a member of the White Rock Rotary Club.
Welcome.
I'm sorry, one more Happy Bucks. So special thank you to Sergio Pope, Regions Bank, for an invitation to the Doak Walker reception last night. It was amazing getting to see the Doak Walker recipient, and I got to be right next to Emmett Smith. It was amazing. Thank you, Sergio.
Yeah, my guest is my Valentine and wife of 60-plus years. Please welcome Sue.
Welcome.
Thank you. My guest and Valentine is my wife, Esther.
Welcome, Esther. Walt, back over here.
I am super thrilled to introduce Chip Scoggins with Texas Capital Bank. He is seriously considering joining. He's really fantastic. Please take the time to get to know him. Want to stand up? He's amazing. Welcome, Chip.
Welcome. Any other guests? Okay, if I have Sean Foster come up now and introduce our marketplace advertiser.
Thank you, Jeff. This week's hub advertiser is Tanya Bowden with Brent Cooper State Farm. This is Tanya's 10th year in our Rotary Club and our 8th year as co-chair for the UP tree lighting. She also continues to work on legislation to provide grocery access in the underserved areas of Texas and is fighting big tobacco at the state and federal levels with both legislation and the flavored vaping ban. Tanya helps with marketing for Brent Cooper State Farm. Brent is one of the multi-year sponsors of the University Park tree lighting and has over a decade as a banner sponsor of the HP Scots football team, numerous public and private Dallas and Highland Park school teams and events, as well as Park Cities and North Dallas YMCAs. Brent is a graduate of Florida State University Business School. His agency has qualified for numerous awards over the years, including the State Farm Chairman's Circle, State Farm President's Club, and the $1 Million Roundtable. In the office, the team enjoys assisting resident relocations to the Dallas, Texas area, focusing auto, homeowners, renters, life, and business insurance throughout Dallas and surrounding Texas areas with competitive pricing and unparalleled service. Please feel free to call or stop by the office at Preston Center upstairs from Sevy's for a free insurance quote at any time. When insuring what's most important to you, it's even more important that you know your agent, Brent Cooper State Farm. Please, let's give Tanya a round of applause for sponsoring today's hub.
Thanks, Sean. Thanks, Tanya. And now I'd like to call on William to come speak to our partnership with the Park Cities newspaper.
At the risk of asking an uncomfortable question, I'm a reporter, I'm going to do that. How many of us are under 70? How many of us are under 60? I can raise my hand just a little bit longer on that one. How many of us are under 50? What about under 40? That's good, yeah. Every year, People Newspapers publishes this special section called 20 Under 40. These are folks who live in our markets, so the Park Cities and Preston Hollow, they live or work in these areas, and they are rising to a degree professionally, but also are making contributions outside of work, volunteer kind of spirit. Sound like potential Rotarians to me. A few years ago, we invited the Rotary Club to be a partner with us on this project. One, to bring, a voice, extra voices from the community to it, And we have also added an event, and our event is April 25th at the Community Foundations of Texas. There will be an invitation going out where we recognize the folks who are going to be in this section, and the Rotary will speak, and there'll be some introductions to Rotary at that. But if you've got time to come out and meet some of these folks and, you know, make a good impression, encourage them, that would be a great opportunity. As part of the partnership, Rotary helps us select these, and I would like to do a special thank you to Daniel Drabinski and Patty Schwab for serving on our selection committee this year. I'd also like to thank Jeff Brady, who has agreed to be our MC, and just thank the club for being part of this. So watch for the section. You'll be in our May issue, which will come out shortly before this April 25th event. And again, the event will be on April 25th.
Thank you, William. And y'all may recall that Kyle Marmillion, our one individual under 40, he was one of our 40 under 40, or 20 under 40. So thank you, William. Eric HEITKAMP.
Thanks, President Jeff. It is time for the Frisco Rough Riders game again. It is going to be April 26th. How many have been to the Rough Riders Stadium in the past? It's a fun place to go. The parking is super easy. Everything is short distance. If you have kids, grandkids, it's a great place to take your kids, and they get all the kids involved in different activities and running the field and all that at the end of the deal. So it'll be April 26th. It's a Friday night this time. It is $27 plus parking is usually around $5, $6. And anyway, it's a ton of fun. We do get a $10 with your ticket. You do get a $10 voucher for food and drink. And so we hope to see you guys there. I'll be putting it up on the site here shortly. And if you have any questions, just let me know. Thank you.
Thanks, Eric. Tom Swift.
Hi, everybody. So many of you remember that our Legacy of Leadership class last year set upon ourselves the goal of increasing membership in the club. Imagine that. Our goal was +2 net each year. And that sounds pretty conservative, but prior to COVID, we averaged about 165 to 175 members. Now we've been averaging post-COVID more like 145 to low 150s. I'm convinced that with everybody's effort in the room, we can get back into the 160s and 170s. Am I going to make me wrong, or we're going to do this? So, as a way to acknowledge and recognize a few people who've made our growth possible so far this year, we're net +4. I'd like to ask them to stand up and be recognized, please. Eric HEITKAMP. Eric sponsored Daniel Voigt. Is Daniel in the room? Okay. Happy Franklin. Surprise, Happy sponsored a new member. What about that? Jim Thomas. Where's Jim? Jim's here. Stand up, Jim. You can do it. I'll wait for you. We know each other. It's okay. Let's see. Mark Neese. Where's Mark? Stand up, Mark. The humiliation of your dreadful game last week, I'd like to give you some positive reinforcement here, and thank you for recommending Casey Lambert to join the club. Is Casey in the room today? Not today, okay. Let's see, Mary Bishop's in the room. Mary, stand up. Melinda Mitchell is a new member that Mary sponsored. Is she here? No, I don't see her. Okay, Mark Casher, I know Mark's in the room. Mark, is Bob Helt here today? No, okay, well you're here, that's good enough for us, right? Eric HEITKAMP again. Eric, you shouldn't have sit down. You should just stay up. Second time around in a short time frame. So how about that? Eric also recommended Marshall Weaver, who is a former member of the club who's come back to rejoin us. Tom Swift. I recommended Cody Vaden, who was a contact I made because of our association with the 4th of July parade. He, of course, is on the staff of Congress Lady Beth Van Dyne. One more, Jason Graves, a relatively new member. Stand up, Jason. Jason recommended Robin Lynn. Robin. So here's what I would say to each of you who didn't ask you can do this too, right? Y'all can bring somebody to the club. It's not that hard for us to grow this thing, not +2, but maybe +10 this year. We've got 5 more months to do it. Everybody I called on to like to ask you to stand over here at the end of the meeting. We're going to take a group photo. And so, you know, brush your teeth, get your spinach out of your teeth. And I want to thank everybody for their attention and understand that growing this club is a goal we all share, we all participate in, and to various levels we all make it happen, right? So continue the great work. Thank you.
Tom, that's a great message. We appreciate that. And as we all know, the membership is the club, and so we do appreciate that. I'd like to have Jill Jordan come up and speak to the parade.
It's your weekly parade announcement. So we have an exciting opportunity. This is a leap year, so February 29th is an important day. And it turns out that somebody is being very generous to the North Texas Food Bank, and what they've said is they will quadruple match any money that the food bank turns in on the 29th. So guess what we're doing? We're doing a big call for donations on the 29th. So we're trying to get our sponsors to turn in checks that day, and the Happy Bucks from today and next week will go towards it. And we are getting our QR code from the food bank that links us to kind of our account at the food bank so that they can track donations. I will be emailing that QR code out to you all several times with a reminder on the 29th. So normally we ask for your donations in May, but given the special circumstances of this quadruple match, we're going to push for February 29th. So big day there. So please be generous. Please be happy next week. And let's get lots of meals, because every $1 on the 29th produces 12 meals that day. All right, next thing, parade. So the parade theme, we had like 17 people turn in parade theme ideas. We had 39 ideas in total. Last week you all voted, and the accounting firm of Jordan, Jordan & Jordan has tallied those votes. And Jeff, I'm going to let you do the honorary envelope for the winner of the parade theme.
So I'm going to
announce the theme
of the parade. Can I get a drum roll from somebody? The winner is Red, White, and You, Sarah Ollier. Woohoo!
So, congratulations to Sarah. We'll have a graphics designer who will do way better than yours truly. You know, this is what you get when you're an engineer. So, anyway, thank you all.
Thank you, Jill. And if you think Jill's going to be on you for the parade like today, just wait till we get closer to the parade itself. She's going to be all over you. And Tom has one more thing to say.
I forgot to mention that Kathleen Claveter, who heads up our Ronald McDonald House meal service once a month, asked me to let anyone who's available know we need some help. We've got about 4 volunteers right now, and we need about 4 or 5 more. A lot of you I'm looking at have been there many times before. We'd love to have you back. If you haven't been there, tap me and I'll walk you through the process, and it's a lot of fun, and you'll get to cut up some veggies and roast some chicken. I think Jason roasted the chicken last month. It's a lot of fun. So we need help Monday night. Monday night, whatever Monday's date is. Anybody know? The 19th, this month, 3 days from now. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. And now I'd like to have past President Jeff McNAUGHTON come up to the podium. So as you know, every president oversees a year of many great programs, and every year we compile into a bound book every hub that's been produced during his year. So Jeff had a wonderful year, and Jeff, thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you. And now a few announcements real quickly. I know Happy's put together this dinner at Joey's this Sunday, so if you haven't signed up yet, you can't sign up. Oh, you still can? Oh, the more the merrier. Because I had to call you, but you still can get in. Great. And then the 29th of February, we have PCR Connect. It's at St. Anne's. And then on the March 9th, we have the Crawfish Festival coming up. And then we do not have events for Easter Friday, the 29th of March. And now we need to conduct our raffle. So, Sergio, get your tickets out. And Senator Hutchins, we're going to have you pull the winning ticket out. And the winning number is, the last four numbers are 1097. Trish, you've won. Trish, have you got this before? Haven't you won before? Or you oh. Well, there you go. So the way it works, she pulls the ace of spades, she wins half the pot. And what's the half the pot? What's the pot now? 780. Okay. On the 29th.
On the 29th. Oh, well.
Thank you very much. Richard Stanford, now to come introduce our wonderful guest.
It's hard not to do a very long introduction. I'll try to be short. But Kay Bailey Hutchison is a Texas native. She's a product of the University of Texas and its law school. Her husband, Ray, some of you may have known him. He was in the state legislature, and Ray did, in private practice, did bond financing for government entities. His private law practice ended up being a public service. A lot of the infrastructure we have around this area and in Texas came from Ray Hutchison's ability to navigate the political waters of bond financing and raise money for major government projects, major infrastructure. Kay Bailey Hutchison has had a 50-year career in public service, state legislature, state treasurer, 2 decades as a United States senator, and in that connection at one time she was the 4th in line in the Republican leadership in the Senate. We won't even get into the committees. She's chaired them. She's been the ranking Republican in some of those committees. You will know that NASA, she did some major work that NASA is where it is today. You may have also heard of the Kay Bailey Hutchison spousal IRA. That's part of her work also. In the midst of all that over the years, she's also twice the chair of the Board of Visitors of the Military Academy at West Point. And most recently, and take all the credit you want to when you're speaking, most recently she served from 17 to 21 as the U.S. permanent representative, the ambassador of the United States to the NATO alliance. And we know what's happening with NATO today, and Finland and Sweden joining, and all the good things that are happening with NATO. In the midst of all of this, she has been an author. She's done a couple, 2 or 3 books. I liked Unflinching Courage because it was about Texas women, but American Heroines was a bestseller. It's all about really meaningful women in this state and in this nation, and that's been her theme. So I'll end by saying it is no accident, given her work and her late husband Ray's work, that our convention center is called the Kay Bailey Hutchison Convention Center, and that's only appropriate. So please welcome Kay Bailey Hutchison.
Well, thank you, Richard. That was so nice, and I'm so glad you talked about Ray, because he's been gone 10 years now, and his imprint is all over Dallas. Just the Texas Stadium, Ranger Stadium, all of the Dallas City Hall. He was the Dallas representative, Dallas General Counsel for bonds. So he was a state representative, which is where I met him, representing Dallas, and he was just the smartest man I ever knew, but also the most creative. And so he could figure things out. I saw it in the legislature and really admired him so much because he would think of ways to do things that no one else had thought about. For instance, in mass transit, I was the Houston representative at the time, and I introduced the Houston mass transit bill. Well, we have a law in Texas that says you can't specify a particular city for a law unless it is all the cities above a certain population. And so I was doing the Houston mass transit bill. And San Antonio came in and said, well, we want to be in it, so lower the threshold so that we can have mass transit in San Antonio. But Dallas came in and said, oh, no, we're not ready for mass transit. And so take San Antonio out because we don't want to be in, and just leave it in Houston. So Ray Hutchison came up with an amendment that said all the cities above the Houston population and the San Antonio population, unless any two of those cities are contiguous, which would be Fort Worth and Dallas. And that's what passed. And that kept Dallas out of the Houston bill, which they were not ready, didn't want to do it, and that's the way he figured it out. So that was Ray Hutchison, and thank you for talking about him. Let me say just a moment, too, about Rotary, because my father started the Rotary Club in our hometown of Lamarck, Texas, and he was the first president. He loved Rotary, and I would visit him with Rotary at Rotary meetings or functions during those years, and it was a big part of his life. And the things that you all do, you know, I just heard a few of the reports, but all of the great things you do for the community, including, of course, the great parade that is the must parade in Park Cities, and it's always so wonderfully well done. It's a huge service to the community. It brings everybody together, and I've ridden in it before, and people are lined at the streets, and the children are, and I even ran out of candy. I have to tell you, that was a disaster. My kids were pulling the candy out of the bag and throwing everything out, and then we were out after about 5 minutes. So anyway, you all do so much, and beyond the parade. I mean, the things that you're talking about doing are just great. The food bank, and that's, what would we do in a community without the great organizations like this one? So thank you for that. So today I'm talking about NATO, and you know, I never thought about being an ambassador when I was in the Senate. In fact, I never wanted to be an ambassador because I thought, gosh, you know, I have a hard time making small talk, and that's kind of what ambassadors do. And so I never thought about it, but I got a call about March after President Trump was elected, and it was Rex Tillerson. Rex Tillerson was the Secretary of State at the time, and he said, I want you to be an ambassador. And I said, I don't know. I kind of went around and thought, oh my gosh, I don't think so. And I finally said, look, I don't think so. I won't say no right out, but I don't think so. My son was in the 9th grade. I didn't think I could jerk him out of school. So I ended up talking to my son, and I said, you know, how would you feel about going to high school in Europe? And he said, oh, I would love that. Can we really do that? And I said, oh, well, maybe. So that's how it got, I got the ambassador to NATO, and I really am so glad that I was able to do it, because President Trump, as we now know, doesn't like NATO at all. And I was able to really hold our coalition together with America as the leader. And that's the most important thing that I think President Trump didn't realize, still doesn't, and I think most people don't realize. The leader of NATO is the United States of America. And we need to be the leader of NATO because Europeans don't think like we do. We have security as our very first priority. And we assess a risk, and we will assess a risk every 10 years. We redo our risk assessment in the Department of Defense because we know that we have to plan way ahead of the potential adversaries in our country. So we assess risk and we then deter against it. That's what NATO does. And the great thing about NATO is that we're not America gearing up for the potential adversaries alone. We are America speaking with almost 32 voices when Sweden gets in. It's 31 voices that say, if one of our countries is invaded by a hostile force, we are all going to step up. We will all fight for the freedom of that country. So we speak with 31 voices, but a lot of people don't realize we have 40 official partners. So in Afghanistan, we had a coalition of 70 countries helping in Afghanistan because we have 40 official partners. So the importance of this is that NATO is a force multiplier. Yes, we could go in with our soldiers, our airmen, our Navy guys. We could go in by ourselves, but think of the cost. Those of you who remember the World War II cost of our soldiers and airmen will remember too that if we go in by ourselves, we're going to pay the whole price. But when we go in with 70 partners and allies, and we share that burden, and we have the same goal of keeping freedom in the world as our way of life, and our allies' way of life, and our trading partners' way of life, that's the importance that NATO brings. And I am very concerned about what President Trump is saying about NATO, as if it's useless. Think about the military-industrial base that we have. We have the F-16s, the F-35s, which are the greatest aviation military fighters right now. And one of the ways that we keep the highest level of military equipment, whether it's F-35s or the best ships or the best tanks, is because our allies buy from us. So they are supporting our military industrial base. Finland is buying 35 F-35s right now. Germany has signed up to buy F-35s, even though France asked Germany not to do that so that they could have a coalition to build the next great fighter jet. And when Ukraine was invaded by Russia, Germany said, we're going with F-35s. We want the capability of a nuclear-armed airplane because that is a deterrent. No one wants a nuclear war. None of our allies want a war. But all of our allies know the only way we will deter a war is by strength. That's Ronald Reagan coming back again and again. Peace through strength. So NATO is our bulwark for deterrence and strength. And it is so important that we keep, it is the longest serving military alliance in the history of the world. It will be 75 years on April the 5th of this year. 75 years. And how has it survived? It survived because it adapts. At first, after World War II, when Truman signed the document, it was to make sure that America was first if Europe was attacked, because we saw the carnage, he saw the carnage of World War I and World War II, and the carnage to America and Europe and the stability of the economies of our country. So it was formed 75 years ago this year. But it has evolved. At first, people said, after the breakup of the Soviet Union, that, well, you know, maybe we didn't need NATO anymore. There were a lot of people who said, well, NATO's just kind of maybe superfluous. Well, thank goodness what we did, and I was in the Senate when we did this, and we debated about it. I have to tell you, it wasn't just an easy decision to bring in the new Soviet republics into NATO, because we knew that it would be a little bit more cumbersome to have unanimous consent with more members, but we decided to do it because we wanted to strengthen those Eastern European countries that had broken away from the Soviet Union and wanted the freedom that we all know and love. And they were just setting up their new governments, so they were not prepared to defend themselves yet. They didn't even have a parliament in that early stage. But we brought them into NATO because we wanted them to strengthen their defenses. And thank goodness we did, because it is Poland, the Czech Republic, the Baltics, the Lithuania, Estonia, Latvia. Those are the countries that are most close to Russia, and they have built their defenses. They're not defenseless because they have been training with NATO. They have been building up their militaries. Their defense spending is way more than 2%, every one of them, because they know the dangers of Russia. And because of their strength, we now have the capability to continue to help Ukraine fight that Russian invasion. And you say, well, you know, a lot of Americans are now saying, maybe Ukraine needs to fight for itself. Ukraine is fighting for itself. We are giving Ukraine the arms, along with our European allies, giving them the arms to fight for themselves. Why are we doing that? They're not a member of NATO, although they are a partner, and they're a valid partner because they've been with us in Afghanistan. They've done the training from us, and they have shown that training by how well they've done in repelling this Russian assault. And they have more spirit than anything I've ever seen in the last 10 years for fighting for their freedom and their country, despite heavy odds against them. But we're doing that too for us, because Putin has said, and I heard this when I was at NATO day in and day out, Putin has imbued in his military and his populace that the worst thing that happened to Russia in its history in the 20th century was the breakup of the Soviet Union. He declares that Gorbachev was a traitor to the mother Russia. So he has told his people that he is going to be the savior of Russia by recreating the mother Russia with the former Soviet republics who belong to the Soviet Union. In Putin's mind, Ukraine is part of the Soviet Union. They're just a renegade part. So here's what the message is that we heard in NATO, that we must continue to strengthen Europe, because if Putin gets by with what he did in 2010, invade Georgia, taking over 2 provinces of the country of Georgia, and then in 2014, he says, well, you know what, the West kind of lost interest in Georgia. it's time to take Ukraine through Crimea. 2014, he goes in and with sheer force takes Crimea, shuts off any entry into Crimea until they could get control of it, and they have missiles all over Crimea to protect against any invasion that would ever happen of their Crimea. So everyone that I know and trust believes that part of Putin's long-term strategy is he will take Ukraine, and if America loses interest, if Europe loses interest in Ukraine, then the next will be Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia. And when he sets foot into that NATO country, our troops will be on the ground in Europe, because that's the solemn oath that we have made in NATO. So when anyone says, why should we support Ukraine? It's so that our boots will not be on the ground. And we are paying a very minimal price to help Ukraine as their boots are on the ground. So I'm very troubled by the discussions that have started coming out about maybe us not being in NATO, because that is so short-sighted. I don't want our troops on the ground in Europe, and we can deter that by seeing this through with Ukraine as they are fighting valiantly for their country, so that Putin will know that we will not lose interest, that we will not say, oh, never mind, as we frankly did in Crimea and in Georgia. And this is the test. This is the test for Putin. And oh, by the way, Xi from China, President Xi, I don't know what to call him because he's really the head of the Communist Party in China, but Xi is watching too, because he sees a weakness. He saw a weakness in our exit from Afghanistan, and that's what caused both Xi and Putin to say, this may be our time to do what we've always wanted to do, for Russia, take back the Soviet Union, and for Xi to take Taiwan. So we have a lot at stake here, and a lot depends on our sticking with Ukraine. And a lot depends on Americans understanding the importance of NATO to America. This is not for Europe. This is for America, our alliance with Europe, our economic stability with trading partners that provide free and fair competition in our trading arrangements, which China does not do, Russia does not do. Our economic well-being and our security depends on our not losing focus, our supporting Ukraine, our supporting NATO, and being the leader of the free world, as we have always been, and we will continue to be if our interest and our commitment does not wane by not looking at the long-term future and taking some kind of a short-term pass on being leader of the free world. I interviewed he would be furious. Admiral McCraven, the four-star admiral that was the brain trust that eventually killed Osama bin Laden. He was the strategist that saw through the whole implementation of his strategy to kill Osama bin Laden. I interviewed him, and then we took a question from the audience, and someone said, well, why should we be policemen of the world? We can't just be all things to all people and still be America. And Admiral McCraven said, hell yes, we can. And I don't use that word very much, but he did, and it was very effective. Because he said, if we are not if we are not the policemen of the world, it will not be one of our allies. It will be Russia. It will be China. Those will be the leaders of the world. So everything is at stake here. And I thank you for letting me be here, because I am such a believer that we've got to look at this big picture. And yes, I will take questions. Richard said I have a few, right?
Yes, and we've got time for a couple questions. Okay.
Okay, and right behind him is a lady who put her hand up right after.
Okay, well, thank you for being here. I've got a couple of questions, actually. Would you support NATO admittance for, all I can say is Cameroon. What's the country that Russia's fighting in now?
Ukraine?
Ukraine. Would you support NATO entrance for Ukraine?
I will support NATO entrance into Ukraine after the war is over. We cannot take a country into NATO that is under siege because we'd be in the war. Right. What we're doing is avoiding the war. And frankly, Ukraine has been on the cusp of NATO membership, but they haven't qualified yet because they have had in the past corruption issues that have not been addressed. And one of the requirements of NATO is that you have a resilient democracy with anti-corruption, rule of law, free press, etc. And so they hadn't qualified yet, but they will qualify now because their military is most certainly proven. Zelensky beat the incumbent president. This is an interesting side note I just want to say. He beat the president, Poroshenko, of Ukraine in the election on the corruption issue. And Poroshenko actually proved that he had Ukraine at heart also. He is fighting in the streets right now for Ukraine against Russia, helping Zelensky, being supportive of Zelensky. And so that has shown the unity of this country. But yes, I would support Ukraine when the war is over because they have proven that they are dealing with corruption and they are certainly a military to be contended with. That would be an asset.
One more question, if I could, please. You mentioned that Germany wanted the F-35 so that they could have nuclear capability.
Mm-hmm.
Does that imply that Germany is a nuclear power? What is the chain of command for nuclear power through Germany, through NATO, and who's the guy, the person that gives the go-ahead to use nuclear power in one of our F-35s?
Well, it would be an issue based on the circumstances. It's hard to say, but the reason that Germany's buying F-35s is because it will be much quicker to have it nuclear certified if it is an F-35 than it would be if it were another fighter plane. There are others that have been proposed, but the nuclear certification will be much shorter, and that's why Germany bought it. Germany would have to make the decision on the use of that plane, but if there is a war that would be a NATO invoked, Article 5 invoked war, that decision would be made by our allies in a coalition. Now, whether any country would opt out that had a nuclear capability airplane that's way down the road to decide, but Article 5 would then make NATO a coalition in the war where the Supreme Allied Commander of NATO would be an American. It's always an American. And those decisions would be made then by NATO. And it's important. One other quick thing. Article 5 has been invoked once for America only. America was attacked on 9/11, and within 48 hours, NATO had come together, gotten all of the permissions from every head of state of our alliance, and they, within 48 hours, invoked Article 5 on behalf of NATO. Now, people don't realize we were in Afghanistan as NATO because of Article 5 had been invoked. We were there to get Osama bin Laden and to stop the terrorist training that was going on in Afghanistan. People don't realize that Afghanistan was a NATO operation based on an Article 5 for the United States of America. So Afghanistan wasn't some offshoot. That was for our protection so that terrorists could not be trained and exported back to America and into Europe. Yes.
What about all of the countries that have not paid their apportionments for military and defense to NATO?
Okay. There are two things. There is the operations budget of NATO. When it is said, well, they're not paying their dues. They do pay their dues. Everyone, it's never been questioned that everyone steps up and contributes for the operation of NATO. But I think what is meant is there are 18 countries out of 31 that are meeting the 2% requirement for investment by their own country in their own defense. And what we do at NATO is we assign each country what they need to have ready for NATO use. And some countries will provide airplanes, some will provide naval ships, some will provide tanks. And if a country isn't meeting their 2%, they still do meet their requirement of what they're contributing. It's just that they don't have the 2% yet in their own defense. So, yes, and let me say that every president that I have served under with or in my lifetime has complained to Europe that they have not met their 2% for their own defense. And that's legitimate. I mean, every one of them has said it somewhat in a nicer way, maybe, than President Trump did. But President Trump got results. I have to say also that he increased exponentially the amount that Europeans were meeting for their own defense. But no ally has ever not met their required contribution to NATO. So the tanks, the armor, the missiles, all of that they're required to do, they're not even required. They accept and sign that they will provide those. And that has not been ever not met.
First, thank you for being here. It's an honor. I know there's several of us in here that are veterans, myself included, and we probably feel like President Reagan is rolling in his grave at some of the things that are happening. How would you suggest to us to get the message out as to how important the situation is with Ukraine? If it were to fall, yes, this is us being in a war, boots on the ground. We're only dedicating less than 5% of our military budget to this support, and obviously it's been halted at this point. How do we transmit that message effectively to help people understand just what a crucial point this is, that we continue to help Ukraine?
It's such a great question, and thank you for your service. Raise your hand if you've ever served in the military. Thank you all so much. Thank you. We appreciate you so much, and you who've raised your hands have made this country what it is, and why we have to fight to make sure we keep that deterrence so that our young men and women will not be going in your footsteps, except voluntarily, which I love the volunteers. But it's so helpful that we talk about this as much as we can, that write op-eds, write letters to the editor, do everything you can so that people understand out there when someone says, why are we helping Ukraine and we're not helping our border? Well, our border is my #1 issue right now. And our border needs the support of the federal government, which the border is being invaded. I'm just, I'm devastated that we are letting so many illegal immigrants that we can't even trace where they're from and what they're bringing in. So it's a legitimate issue. But helping Ukraine is a separate and also very important issue. And mostly what we're doing with the money we're putting in now for Ukraine is replenishing our resources. We've been giving Ukraine all of the older missiles especially, and I think we should have given Ukraine our F-16s sooner. They're not there yet even. We left Ukraine, I think, in a disadvantage that we didn't give them air power earlier. But we are now in the process of training the Ukrainians to be able to operate those airplanes. And now we are trying to replenish our supplies of arms that we have given to Ukraine. So the money that is now on the table that I hope Congress will pass, the Senate did. I was very proud of Senator Cornyn for voting for that Ukraine aid. It's for us. It's to replenish our resources and keep our industrial base strong. And I hope the House will see a way. The House will overwhelmingly pass this. The House and Senate, Republicans and Democrats are all overwhelmingly positive about Ukraine, as well as Israel, as well as Taiwan. It's a huge margin. It's a procedural problem in the House right now to get the bill to the floor. And if the House put border control on the bill, I'd be for that too. I mean, I hope they figure the way to do that. If Ray Hutchison were here, he'd figure a way. So I'll just end with that and say thank you for that question. It was a great one.
Senator Hutchison, thank you so much for speaking today. And in honor of your speaking, a book will be placed at McShane Elementary. Thank you very much. Your insights are just wonderful because, again, to Tanya's question, we definitely need to support the whole process, and we'll see. Next week, we have, the senior economist will come speaking about the Federal Reserve, so that'll be a great program. Jeff McNAUGHTON will come do our four-way test.
The Rotary four-way test of the things we think, say, or do. First is the truth. Second is if there are all concerned. Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships. Fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned.
Bring back memories.
I forgot how to speak. Yeah. Yeah, I didn't know I was supposed to say anything. It's very cool. It's a nice book.